Weekly Sports. I am Jacob Brown, joined here with CJ Uri and Stephen Cashin. We're just going to talk about a bunch of stuff going on in the sports world right now. It's some really negative times going on right now, and we just want to brighten up your guys' day with some sports. And let's just talk about FAU. So there's been a bunch of rumors about FAU possibly merging with the Sun Belt and Conference USA together because there's been a bunch of complaints over the last few years that FAU has to travel to El Paso and a bunch of these cities that are far away instead of playing more regional games. I'd actually like that, guys. I mean, CJ, I know you have a lot of information about, FAU moving up in conferences. Do you think this merger works, or do you want to see something else?
Yeah, in terms of information, nothing that I'm like actually allowed to say on the podcast just because I don't want to piss anyone off. But I know that FAU definitely wants to get out of Conference USA, and it's definitely ironic that a couple of years ago, people were ecstatic to get out of Sun Belt and get into Conference USA, and now we're trying to maybe merge. But I think it's really good. So I agree with the traveling thing at the very least, but there are a few programs in the Sun Belt that are definitely better programs right now than a few Conference USA programs. So if they can maybe merge Sun Belt and Conference USA and the powerhouses into one conference, that'd be really good. And the thing is even traveling in Conference USA is not just even El Paso. I mean, when you fly to Marshall, like you got to go through from what I understand is the team flies in and it's an hour drive just to the facilities for the Marshall football program. So I would love it if FAU were to play some teams that have some more hype around them, and those teams' goals is to be ranked at the end of the year, just like FAU's. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying there. It's just, for me personally, I would like to see him move up, not merge with the Sun Belt. I want them going towards more of the athletic AAC route. There's much better talent in that conference. If you have the opening, have the ability to go and move to that conference, you have to take that all day. And yeah, it sounds great to merge all these in the traveling arrangements, but looking at the Sun Belt too, but you still have some teams in Texas, and you have Arkansas State. There's much more regional teams like Georgia Southern, Georgia State, App State. So you're still going to be battling some traveling issues here. So if you go and, take a step up and go to the athletic conference, you're going to definitely gain much better national attention. You're playing teams like we talked about earlier, Houston, Memphis, UCF's very local. It's right up the road. You can create a rivalry there. USF, you can renew that rivalry. So there's much more opportunity in that avenue than I think merging the two, Conference USA and Sun Belt together. But there's a lot, logistics to go through and stuff to get even, to the next step. But it's a good step for FAU to have that conversation to start with.
Yeah, I believe that if you're the AAC, that's a no-brainer to get FAU in there at some point, just because they're clear cut above the rest of the other G5 teams that would like to move up in conference. And I think that if they were to have a conference realignment tomorrow, maybe one or two of those AAC teams would leave the AAC anyway. So for FAU, they need to get into the AAC before one of those teams leave. They need 2 or 3 seasons with UCF, SMU, and Memphis all in that conference. And who else is in that? Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati's good too.
I mean, I agree. I believe it's more group of 6 than it is group of 5 anymore. I mean, that conference is good. SMU, Cincinnati, Memphis, UCF, they're all ranked top 15 at one point every year. I mean, Big 12 doesn't even have the amount of teams that are ranked top 15 at once, top 20 at once that the AAC has. So I don't know. I just know for a fact that FAU would like to move up in conference as soon as they can. They want a better rivalry too. They like that week 12. They want a rivalry weekend, not FIU comes to town week 6 and it's like 38-0. Like that's just not what the school wants. But it's as an FAU fan, it's really refreshing to know that the program's in the right hands and they have good ambitions. Like for a fan, it would really suck if I woke up every morning and I'm like, they're content with being in Conference USA because they win it every year. I want to see them move up, and if that means that we have to go 6-6, 5-7 a few years, like in a harder conference, I don't care.
Worth it.
It's completely worth it, exactly, Jacob. So
Yeah.
that's me. I'm done with playing goddamn Middle Tennessee and Old Dominion and Charlotte. Fuck that. So get me into a better conference.
Bro, and like
And
we need
even
we need better games to go to too. I mean, like we saw, like we were all there for the UCF game. That shit was sold out. Like there were tailgates outside the building. People were pumped up for that game. USF, if there's fans for this year, if they're allowed, that game will definitely be sold out. So, like from a ticket standpoint too, this is a complete no-brainer because USF and UCF would rather have FAU come into town than some of those AAC teams as well. Because like you guys mentioned, like those regional matchups and those rivalries that you can recreate, I just think it's a no-brainer. Why would you travel to El Paso when you can travel to Houston and face them instead? So I think it's a no-brainer. I mean, Steven, you were just about to say something.
Yeah, and I'm thinking here too. We've had experience with the American Conference. Think about it. Lane's first year, you played Navy and you got beat pretty bad there,
That's
but
right.
Navy's been good. They have had 10-win seasons, 5, 6 times in the last 10, 12 years. And they're on the right track. You're playing USF coming up here. You've played UCF twice in the last 2 years. You beat the brakes off SMU. So this team isn't afraid to play any of those
Yeah.
that conference. They're primed and ready to go. And UConn just left that realm. There's an opening there to get and jump in, and I think you're looking at FAU and saying, "Hey, if you want to come along, jump on board." I like you said, CJ. I'd rather be 500 and play these teams, and you're gaining a ton of attention playing, top tier teams. People want to schedule you too if you're in a better conference. That goes
Yeah,
hand in hand.
that's why the USF game this year, whether there's fans or not
Huge.
in the stadium, as long as they're playing, is such a huge game because they need to show the AAC. Yeah, we may have gone 0-2 against you guys two straight years or over 2 years when we played UCF. Yeah, we lost to UCF both times. The first time we played UCF, it was like 50-35 or something. It was a good game. It was a shootout, and it was away.
We were
FAU
up at half
moment
too.
showed the AAC, okay, we can go to an away barn, your best team, and put up 35. Then the next year we had them at home and we kind of got blown out. But anyway, we made up for that by blowing out SMU. And now we need to beat USF so that over 4 years or over 3 seasons, we could say we went 500 in your conference and blew out one of your teams in a bowl game and hopefully blew out USF. And we can clearly hang and compete, and we have a lot of hype, and there's TV stations that want to cover this and whatnot. This is a no-brainer to get us in. And I'm pretty sure UConn left.
They did leave. Yeah, they were last year. That I believe I had it up here. They were 2 in. They finished the season 2-10, 0-8 in conference play last year, and they didn't sign their contract or something happened logistically wise. They just left the conference. So right now there's an active open spot for a team to jump in and play football in that conference.
Okay, one thing I'm worried about though, and this is something that like we got to consider and put it out there. The whole FAU D line just left. We lost a few major pieces of the secondary, a lot of receivers. Harrison Bryant's gone, John Rain's gone. What if this FAU team just isn't as good anymore, and then they have a really bad year this year, and then there's really no argument to move up? Because that could happen.
Yeah, there could be not a significant drop off, but potentially you're not going to see the team you saw the last couple of years being as dominant. At the same time, you move conferences, you're going to get a better drawing from transfers, recruits. No offense to Conference USA, I'm not beating them up. They're going in the right direction, but these high end athletes don't want to go and play and go to Western Kentucky and go to Marshall. You want to go play in these primetime games. Like you played SMU, and at a certain point in this past season, they were number 13, I believe.
Yeah.
They were on primetime TV, ABC, 8 o'clock game. They had college game day. You move conferences, you have a chance to get that kind of hype at your school, and you will drag people with you, and you're going to get attention. You're going to draw recruits. Coaches will find a way to get guys there. But like you said, I'm not really nervous about the players, underperforming this year. It's a part of a rebuild. You're going to naturally lose guys throughout the seasons, but They're in good hands.
Yeah.
I think the coaching staff is too experienced to let that happen.
The thing is I don't even think a conference like the AAC would really care about the player aspect of it, in all honesty. FAU has the money. Like recently, they got like a $2 million donation. It's a program that has boosters and fundraisers, and that's something that you need. The alumni pool is growing, and then on top of that, they get two big name coaches back to back, Lane Kiffin and Willie Taggart. Like that's huge. So even if Willie Taggart, which I full heartedly believe is going to work out in Boca Raton, even if Willie Taggart is a freaking train wreck season one, they want that train wreck on TV in their conference because it's publicity.
Right.
Willie Taggart, okay, so imagine 2 years from now, it's Willie Taggart and Willie Taggart Jr. winning 10 or 11 games. That's something that you want in your conference. Like, that's a great storyline. In the AAC this weekend, we have Willie Taggart and his son going into Memphis for a pivotal game, ranked number 22 versus ranked number 16, whatever it is. That's something you want. And the thing is the FAU program has that potential and more when other programs right now don't have that. So for me, it's a no-brainer. And I think it's only going to be a matter of time in a few years. But I think we still have a couple more seasons in Conference USA, and hopefully we can win like 2 or 3 straight more conference championships by a wide margin, and then really sit there and say, get us the fuck out of this conference. Because that's kind of what happened with UCF.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus, like, the thing people don't mention, too, like, the facilities that FAU has are better than most schools. That athletic complex that they just built is insane. I know we've all three been there, and we talked about it. They've got like NFL level facilities for their gyms, for their practice fields, for that entire facility. The stadium is huge. I mean, you don't go to a lot of college football stadiums and say this could host an NFL game, and it's one of those stadiums that could. So the AAC, if they're saying, hey, FAU doesn't have enough space, they can't say that. So FAU has the facilities, they got the money, and if they keep winning, they're going to want them in that conference. No brainer.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to want that team there, and like CJ said, great point. You keep winning, you prove that you can have another couple 10-win seasons. You're in the championship game. You can't stay in this conference much longer because you're going to be so dominant. You're going to want to go play better schools and schedule better teams. I really want, what's intriguing to me is I really want that in-state rivalry. After these past years, I fucking hate UCF. I hated their student body, their everything they were about. Not that they're bad people, but I just hated that it was a rivalry. That you were building that, and if you get into that conference, you're going to build. It's going to be like Florida State with FAU and UCF. We're going to hate each other. It's going to be a good rivalry. Think about Miami and Florida State, two teams that hate each other. Start creating an in-state rivalry, a ring of teams you're playing constantly year in, year out, playing USF every year, UCF every year. It'd be a good thing for the state of Florida, football-wise, the school. You can create a tradition there. That's the one thing you play them every year.
Yeah, and even for like normal people too, because I know when people decide where they want to go to college, and this is why I made the decision. I had the decision between FGCU and FAU, and I'm like, nah, I'm going to the school with a football team. And when this is a real thing. I mean, some guys like us, they're in high school, seniors, they want to go to these big football games. If FAU and they're getting these 8 o'clock night games, sold out crowds, playing these in-state rivalries, people are going to want to go to these games, even normal casual fans. Not even the fanaticals. So I really hope this AAC stuff works out. And even if not that, just get FAU to play better teams throughout the year. I mean, CJ, I don't know how much you know about this, but you were just talking about, what was it, Ole Miss is scheduling their group of 5 team today. So FAU might even be playing Ole Miss potentially. So that would be huge.
Yeah, the marriage there for a home and home is definitely there just through the Lane Kiffin connection. Lane Kiffin brought a few of his guys from FAU over there as well, such as the strength and conditioning coach, Coach Love. So the connection is there. I don't know what the home and home will be. I think that you can rule out UCF. I don't think teams want a home and home against UCF. It's a little too dangerous right now because they're upset nation. And I'm not a UCF fan. I don't like UCF at all, but I'll still sit there and give them credit to where you don't want them coming into your barn and a G5 team might upset you in front of your boosters and season ticket holders. I think FAU's your no-brainer for this. The hype is there with Lane Kiffin having coached FAU, and FAU has the players. There's a graphic yesterday that came out about Chris on Fox Sports, the normal Fox Sports account, saying here are the top 10 college football passers that are coming back this season, and Chris Robeson's number 4 on their list.
Hey, there we go.
And the thing is FAU, Brian White and President Kelly, they're not dumb and they're not clueless. They're very smart football minds and athletic minds, and they know that okay, we need to have a premier home game. And I don't care if it's an SEC team coming to town, it might spank our ass. We need a premier home game because I can't keep giving our fans our number one home game is USF. Our number one home game is UCF was big, but in previous seasons, like our number one home game is like our rivalry with Marshall. Like that's not what it's going to be, and it's not what it can be. It needs to be something better. And they've shown the initiative by scheduling a home and home with Missouri, a 3-game series. So we might get a 3-game series with Ole Miss where we travel to Ole Miss twice to play Lane Kiffin, and Lane Kiffin comes to FAU, whatever it needs to be. And I know that they're trying to be doing this. Like from what I understand is they're trying to get out of conference Power 5 teams to come. And I think out of conference Power 5 teams coming to FAU is going to be a normal thing in the next couple of years because it's an attractive place to play. It's a good place to travel for out of conference teams. And we're not at the point yet where it's like we can't go there. It's upset nation. We're like just below that. So right now, I think it's a no-brainer. I think Ole Miss and FAU doing a home and home is very much on the radar for this upcoming week. I don't know when it's going to be announced, but I wouldn't be shocked if it wasn't us, but I would not be shocked if it was us. So who knows?
And even if we don't get them, we'll get someone else. And by the way, CJ, you got to be careful with this, calling it the group of 5. Vandy Seeley was listening to this. He'd have something to say about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, Power 5 makes their own rules, and the Power 5 does what they want because they have money. So regardless of if people want to say there's no Power 5, it's all subjective. There is a Power 5. So because there's no G5 teams making the college football playoff ever. So
in 23, I don't know if y'all know, but FAU goes to Clemson in 2022-23. They play up there first game of the year. And so if with the scheduling thing too, like if you're an FAU student, don't get me wrong, like if we schedule Ole Miss, don't think our students don't want to go up and party in the Grove and tailgate and like just being that party scene, going to Death Valley, Clemson, and going to see them play. It's a great thing for your school. Kids will want to go there. They want to go to different schools and party and do that and travel and be a part of something and potentially knocking teams off. So it's a great thing. It's kind of a movement, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, my bad. Don't forget that this time next year we'll be previewing Week 1 FAU Chris Robison's senior season going to UF.
My God! And if they were to beat Florida, I will get arrested in Gainesville. That'll burn that city to the ground.
Just for everyone to know, Stephen Cashin's the number 1 Florida Gator hater. So him and I had gone up to UF 2 times this past semester to go up for a game day on a weekend that FAU did not have a home game. And let's just put it this way. Steven walked into the tailgate in an Auburn Tigers jersey. I don't know how he got the Auburn Tigers jersey, but he made sure he had an Auburn Tigers jersey to walk into the tailgate. So
in the student section too. In the student section with
make
the
his
Cam
way
Newton
into
jersey
the visitor section at Ben Hill Griffin, no matter what.
Yep, repping the Cam Newton jersey, and surprised they didn't get anything thrown at me. They scoop and score. I was taunting them, but it's fine. Florida ended up winning. They got the last laugh, but it's straight. I don't like Florida at all. I hate them with a passion. Can't
but they'll be starting a freshman quarterback.
They will be. No one knows where Florida will be after this season. They got a lot of high end talent that's going to be leaving that program. So who knows? And like I said, Robinson will be a senior, and who knows where he's at talent wise. So exciting things to look forward to for FAU.
And by the way, shout out to my former roommate, Kamal Ellison. He just transferred from FAU to UF football. So we can hate on him when we play them, but congrats to him if you listen to this pod. He made it to UF. That's awesome, transferring over there. So I know you guys just finished the MJ doc. What did you guys think? You know what? I just want to start this, please. LeBron or MJ? CJ, I need to hear it straight up. Steven, is it LeBron or MJ? After this doc, what do you think?
I'm going to stick with... I had predetermined mindset before this documentary. I was all LeBron, greatest player of all time. No debate. I think it's MJ. It was a different era of basketball. Like we touched on that the first time I touched on the documentary. just a different era of just a more of a grinding style type of basketball than it is now. It's very flashy, much 3-point shooting now. In his mentality, MJ was just, I'm going to win at all costs. People thought he was an asshole for, being, oh, this guy's a dick on the court. He's mean to his teammates. But with that talent comes with not being a nice guy. With what he wanted to accomplish, he didn't have to be a nice guy. So I think MJ, with the mentality of just winning at all costs, making his teams better, I'm going to go with Jordan here.
So I'm going to start off by saying who I think is the best player of all time, or the GOAT. I don't want to say best player of all time, the GOAT. And I'm going to say it's MJ because I'm not going to disrespect MJ by saying that LeBron James is the GOAT when LeBron James' career is not over. I think it's disrespectful to say that someone is better than MJ before retirement. Both need to retire before you have a really good debate. And when that happens, I will be sitting there and saying the best physical specimen basketball player of all time is LeBron. It's like anybody who says otherwise is just being really ignorant. Anyway, I don't even want to focus on why Michael Jordan's the GOAT. Everybody knows why. Six rings, 6-0 in the finals. Even though his leadership style was messy at times, he still got his guys on the court and he got the best out of his players. For instance, Paxson on the shooting guard on the Chicago Bulls. He was like a Mike Miller kind of guy, like a Shane Battier with LeBron, where they just post up at the 3 line, and then MJ would figure out, okay, Paxton's open when I'm going down the floor. I'm gonna draw a couple guys and then dish it out to him, and then let's get him in the groove. MJ was so good at getting the best out of his players, out of his teammates. So there's a million things that you can sit here and say about MJ. So I'm going to say something different. I was having dinner the other day, and someone at the dinner table was telling me, yeah, all these people are telling me that, there's no way LeBron would be able to drive to the hole in that era, and there's no way that he'd be able to survive Lambeer, Dennis Rodman, or Oakley, or whatever, Charles Barkley, blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you got to understand that when MJ was playing, and before MJ even beat the Pistons, the guy wasn't muscular. He was scrawny. He was a stick. That's never been LeBron. Like, if LeBron goes to the hole and you try to stand up to him and really give him a hip check or a stiff arm or hand check, whatever, it's going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt him. And people are going to back off from that. So to anyone out there that says LeBron James wouldn't average as many points, LeBron James wouldn't get to the hole, LeBron James has averaged over 30 points a game in that era of basketball, regardless. It'd be more physical, but LeBron James is 6'8", 6'9", like all muscle, 270, whatever he is, he's still going to go to the hole, and he's still going to posterize people, and he's still going to knock people down. So that's that. But anyway, MJ is the GOAT, 6-0 in the finals. And I really was skeptical of The Last Dance when it was starting off because he was all over the place. Like it would be like 1988, and then it'd be 1996. And then I was like, well, what the fuck's going on? And then I finally picked up on it. And, not to go too deep into this, but I definitely learned a lot more about that era of basketball than I ever would have.
That's actually, like, I'm glad you brought that part up because that was my favorite part about the entire thing. Like, you didn't just get to learn about the Bulls. You got to learn about the Utah Jazz with Stockton and Malone. You got to learn about that Seattle Supersonics team. You got to learn about Reggie Miller's Pacers. The Pistons, those big bad Pistons, the Larry Bird Celtics. This is stuff like I always knew about those teams, but I never watched them or followed them, obviously, because none of us were alive at that time, clearly. So like it was cool to see that shit. But like all the people that are coming on MJ for this, you were a dick to your teammates and all this. The guy was 6-0. I don't think you can complain about that. None of his teammates have come out saying, oh, I hate Michael Jordan. He was way too tough on me. I mean, there are people that said, he was tough, certainly, and we didn't like him for it at times. But nobody can deny that him being a dick caused them to win 6 championships. And, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And I wouldn't even call it being a dick. I mean, that's kind of what everyone else is branding it as. I would kind of just say he's a hard worker, and he expects everyone else to do what he does. And that's all it was. It was about accountability. And I think that's something that's admirable. And Michael Jordan's one of the most accountable people out there. And, another thing I noticed, he backed up every decision that he ever made. Everyone was coming at him again for this gambling stuff. He's like, I don't have a gambling problem. I have a competition problem. That was one of my favorite quotes from the whole thing. It was like, if this guy really had a gambling problem, he would have been, he would have had a lot more problems than what he had during his life. But in terms of who's better, LeBron, MJ, I agree with you, CJ. Physical specimen, clearly LeBron. You can't debate 6'8" and whatever weight LeBron is, and his humongous arms, his body, the perfect athletic build. There's nothing to debate about LeBron. But you're right. Michael came into the league. He was skinny. He was small, and he still found a way to get through these teams. It wasn't until later that he got a little bit bigger. So from this standpoint, I can say, in terms of winning and losing, it's obviously Michael Jordan, because to me, when you're LeBron James and you've lost as many championships as MJ has won, you can't possibly be the GOAT yet. I'm definitely willing to wait till the end of LeBron's career, because who knows? If he wins a ring this year, if he wins a ring next year, you're saying, wait a second, he beat that all-time Golden State team. He beat whoever he beat this year, whoever he beats next year. He beat those big three Spurs teams. So by the end of these careers, it really could be a different conversation. But right now, today, Michael Jordan's the GOAT. LeBron's the better physical player. And I just don't think it's up to debate. Again, the thing that defeats it for me, you can't be the GOAT if you've lost just as many championships as the other guy has won. It just doesn't seem fair to me. I guess we can continue that debate. What do you guys have to say to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's two different ways you can go about it. LeBron, like, you can debate it. It's a double-edged sword. And, MJ he had really good teams. He had really good supporting cast with him. And sometimes you look at LeBron's teams and he really carried them in certain years where he took a Cleveland Cavaliers team all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals that really shouldn't have been there. So, I don't know. Yes, you can't call LeBron the GOAT right now. Like you said, his career is long from over in my eyes. At the end of the day, MJ and LeBron can sit down, have a drink together, and talk about, the greatness that they both did on the court. But right now, you can't really you can pick a side, but you can't dispute who is the GOAT you can't call LeBron the greatest yet, because he can go and maybe win 4 titles in a row. Who knows what could happen? We just don't know yet. So, just go off that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree. The only thing I have to say is I agree. You make, like, the finals argument is a great argument right now because LeBron's career isn't over. So I'll just sit here and I'll say I agree. Once his career is over and maybe he's got 2 more finals rings under his belt and he's 4 finals wins, 5 finals wins, whatever he gets up to, because he's going to win at the very least 2 more. It's LeBron James. Okay. Then you can sit there and start making your real argument for LeBron. So I still think the greatest finals, LeBron James had a better finals performance than Michael Jordan ever did, which was coming back down 3-1 and willing that Cavs team against the Warriors. No one else in the NBA can sit there and say, I had a better finals performance than LeBron. And even Michael Jordan can't really argue about that. LeBron James down 3-1 to the freaking Golden State Warriors and coming back is unheard of with that talent on the Warriors team. And honestly, it's just a time thing. Once Steph Curry gets in the Hall of Fame, once Klay Thompson gets in the Hall of Fame, once Draymond Green's career is over, once Steve Kerr's not the coach of the Warriors and LeBron's in the Hall, whatever, all that shit happens, then you can really look back on it and say, you're telling me LeBron James against 2 Hall of Famers, 3 Hall of Famers potentially, came back down 3-1 and brought that Cavs team together and won? Like, the people are going to sit there and say, that's freaking crazy. That's GOAT material. So it's just a time thing. But anyway, in terms of The Last Dance, the actual content of it, one of my favorite things to watch was, I think it was like episode 6 through 7, where it was a lot about his gambling. Yeah. That guy in golf courses they don't go together. Like, he's probably a really good golfer, but the guy gets up to the tee box and is looking at the other 3 guys in the foursome, and he's like, let's go. We're going to bet this amount. We're going to bet this. No, I'll take you down. And the next thing you know, you got an entrepreneur on TV saying, Michael Jordan owes me God only knows how much money. Like, I need it. So I thought that was, for me, like, I knew he had not a gambling problem. I knew he was, like, addicted to it, but I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah, guys would be on the team playing even saying, like, I think it was Paxson saying, like, the guys would be playing cards in the back, and Paxson and his buddies, they'd be playing up at like $2 a hand. You go back, MJ's throwing down $1,000 a hand. It goes back there, and And he's like, yeah, we don't play with them, and we were going to lose too much money. And then MJ comes up to the front of the plane and wants to play with them. And he's like, why the hell does MJ want to play with us? Because he has not a gambling problem, competition problem. He wants to, take their money, say I beat you. But it's just funny how people just want to spin that his gambling, it is quote unquote issue. But I just think he had a lot of money to spend, and it's not like he was out every night partying, drinking, and going and gambling away all his money. He liked to do it because it was fun for him, and that's just the way it was. And I would never beat him up. Yeah, I've gambled before, and it's fun, and I think he's not wrong for doing that.
Well, I actually have a little conspiracy theory here, guys. A little tiny one, because it kind of like flows about what we've been talking about. I think it's probably obvious to some people. MJ made this documentary to help his legacy. Let's just say that. He wanted to make sure that his legacy had a narrative to it. That when you look back on MJ's career, you can say, hey, go watch that 10-part documentary, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about Michael Jordan. But in the aftermath of all of this, you've seen, and I'll go back a second. So I think he made this documentary in the first place in response to all the things, like the little things for a few years that his teammates were saying about him in the back. Remember, a few years ago, Scottie Pippen went on First Take and said, I think LeBron might be better than Michael. And Michael didn't say anything. And this went on for, Scottie Pippen said something. Rodman said LeBron's better than Jordan at points. And Jordan's probably sitting there like, wait a second, I don't want my legacy to be tarnished. He comes out with this documentary. Lo and behold, doc comes out. It's all over. Reviews come out. And now Scottie Pippen is pissed off. I wonder why. Maybe it's because he said LeBron's better than him a few years ago on First Take. And then MJ made this doc to say, hey, wait a second, I'm the true GOAT. What do you guys think to that? Do you think it's a little jealousy thing going on here, possibly?
I don't know about the jealousy thing. I mean, I'm sure there's some level to it, but what you said about the conspiracy theory about like helping his legacy, I kind of agree with that. I think what this documentary, I think he's okay with it, but I think what this documentary also exposed was he is so self-centered when it comes to his career, and he's so he didn't like Scottie Pippen did not at all like the way he was portrayed in the 10-part documentary, which to me, if Scottie Pippen after the fact is saying I did not at all like the way I was portrayed in this, I was portrayed as some villain and a nuisance for a couple episodes, when in reality Michael Jordan didn't win shit until I got there, just shows that it's not like Michael Jordan didn't just say, hey, Scotty, before this is released, I'm here are the 10 videos. Let me know what you think, And that just to me shows why, what, even Horace Grant, I'm pretty sure said something about it.
Yeah, him too.
These guys helped you win finals. These guys took a lot of bullets for you on the court, and you can't even just put it pass it by them and say hey, this is your part, this is your episode. Like Horace Grant had a huge part in a couple episodes. Why not show him those couple episodes that he's in and is say, hey, do you approve of this? Like, the fact that he didn't even ask Scotty, I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way, and it rubbed a lot of guys the wrong way, and I just think it's, I don't know. This LeBron and MJ, back to the LeBron and MJ thing, LeBron's so different from MJ in that regard, I feel like LeBron would be like, hey, buddy, what do you think about this? I don't know. I just thought it was really weird, but...
Yeah, I think the difference between MJ and LeBron in that sense is that LeBron likes being the center of attention a lot. He likes attention, being the spotlight type of thing, whereas MJ kind of likes to chill in the back and say one thing and then let everything play out. So they definitely have different personalities. But what do you think, Steven? Do you think there's some little bad blood going on between MJ and some other guys?
After watching the whole documentary, there were some parts where I think there was some, I didn't agree with how he portrayed some guys, but there were great moments here, and I wanted to touch on it. It was he did show how tough Scottie Pippen was, in that '98 finals. He basically blew his back out in that game, and he leaves and showed how he battled through that. He left the game, came back, and he did help Michael win that game because he was kind of a ploy that whole game, just being a decoy, and he did make some good shots there in that game. And as much as he could have said, hey, I'm just going to sit this one out, I'm going to look out for the rest of my career, he did come back and show what he was made of, how tough he was. Steve Kerr, even that, my favorite part of the whole documentary was how he, portrayed Steve Kerr and how in the beginning of their relationship, it was not very good. He gave Steve a hard time and kind of bullied him a little bit. And that one moment where Steve Kerr punches Michael in the chest and stands up to him. And since that, after that point, their relationship was good. Michael said, "Hey, after that moment, he snapped on me. I gained a ton of respect for him, and they were good friends. But there was definitely moments in there where he made some guys look bad, and it's just I think the way he wanted to clear some things up after because things were said about him, and he wanted to say, well, here's what actually happened. But there were some good and bad things that came from it. I think a lot of good came from the documentary. Showed a lot of sides that people didn't know about, like Steve Kerr. Like I didn't know about anything about his dad
Yeah.
getting killed, and it was just I think it gave people an opportunity to tell their story of their perspective of the dynasty in that run. And one last thing I'll say about the documentary is, Steve Kerr, that whole thing, I respect the hell out of the guy. He had to work for, like he said, he had to work for every ounce of what he had in basketball. He didn't have that great gift of talent, worked his ass off, was able to win some championships with the Bulls there, and was really a grinder and respect to him. And now he's winning championships as a coach. But I don't think many people really realize that about Steve Kerr until this documentary and be like, wow, this guy really was a key piece of that Bulls run, and he had to work for every ounce of what he had. So I think as much as we want to talk about the bad things, I think that Jordan did do a good job of incorporating the good things that came through with his career run.
Oh yeah, for sure. And now we're going to segue right here at the end of the show to some news about Major League Baseball. If you listen to our last pod, CJ and I guess a nice way to, we didn't have very many nice things to say about baseball on our last podcast. Steven wasn't here for it. We know we did all those baseball previews together, so I wanted to get your insight on this. So here's the new report coming out from Jeff Passan from ESPN last night about the return of baseball. It says Major League Baseball intends to propose a shorter season in which they would pay players a full prorated share of their salaries. The league believes the late March agreement allows it to set the schedule and that this would fulfill players' pro rata desire. The potential season would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 regular season games. The exact number is being considered, but the aim would be to return in July. It would be less than half of players' proposed season length, and then everything else would basically be figured out after that. So basically they're saying we're going to pay you what you want to be paid, but it's just going to have to be 50, 60 games right into the playoffs. Bottom line is, we said it on last pod, baseball needs to come back. They're going to be one of 2 to 3 sports coming back at the same time for the return of sports. This country needs sports to unite it again, and baseball needs to be at the forefront of that. I'm not going to go over the technicalities. I'd love a 100-game season. I'm a huge baseball fan. I'll take anything just to get it on my TV screen at this point. So, Steven, what are you thinking with this baseball news?
Yeah, so to retract a little bit, going back, they have missed their window. They have missed their opportunity. You had a great chance to come back before anyone else. And the one thing standing in both, owners and players are both wrong. It's greed. It's selfishness. I want all my money. I get where they're coming from. You don't want to play those games and not be guaranteed your money. Baseball, you can snap your arm, get hurt, whatever, and your career is done potentially. I understand that. But in a time where you have a chance to get back and and prove yourself to the world, hey, baseball. Everyone's saying baseball's dying. It sucks. You're not marketing well. You're doing everything wrong. Everyone's pointing the finger at you. Do better. You have a chance to come back. You squander it. You make another proposal. That gets thrown by the wayside. And now you're left with a very small time window. We did those baseball podcasts. We said you have a very short time frame to get things right, and now this is your last, chance to really make things happen. And if you're baseball, it's going to be a death sentence if you don't get something done here. You're going to turn your diehard fans like myself, not going to turn my back on the sport. It's going to be just a black eye for baseball. And to go on the proposal, I think it's a good thing to do. I think 60 games is the right amount. That way you have a full sprint to the finish. People will be interested in every single game potentially. It's just going to be, you're going to incorporate a ton of teams. They mentioned playoff expansion.
Yeah.
It's a good window for opportunity for change. And the last thing I'll say about it, this country right now needs sports. You need some unification. Baseball is diverse. You see these teams getting together, banding together. You need some sort of, unity here. And I think you get baseball and sports back. You're going to turn the TV on. You're going to see much more than just political stuff. You're going to see you have things to watch, and it's a platform for people to get a break in their day and just get off that.
And by the way, Steven, Universal DH, it's happening finally.
Hey, that's something we've been got fans and players been calling for that for change for a long time. Thank God. I don't have to see pitchers wasting at bats anymore. It's a given out. Thank God. I'll give baseball that. That's the one good thing they've done in the last couple of years, besides the playoff expansion.
For sure. What about Mr. Baseball hater CJ?
See, I actually would be interested in a format where there's like 50 games, because after the first like 20 games, every game is beyond meaningful after that, and it's gonna be like if you were a diehard fan of a team and there's only 50 games in the season, every game matters, like every single. So at that point, it's gonna be like the thing about the 162 game season with the MLB is like there are a few games where you're just like I don't give a shit, like there's many games where it's like whatever, fuck it, like I don't care, right? So 50 game season, I think would be kind of badass, just because it's like you turn your TV on, and after 1.5 months, it's like, okay, they're already halfway through the season. We're 500. We got to make a run here. So at that point, every single game matters going forward. So I think it'd be fun to watch, just because you're gonna have that kind of like. I'm not really a diehard Miami Marlins fan, but if they were to make some sort of a run this year, in terms of a 50-game schedule, that's something I can get behind, because every game is going to matter. Like, I can actually sit there and watch the TV and be like, okay, let me scoreboard watch. The Atlanta Braves, the Washington Nationals, whoever else, they're losing, and we're a game behind, and we play again tomorrow. That's something that I would want to watch. So if that's what they end up doing, I think it's good. Then they can get into their normal playoff time. And for me, if I'm the MLB, I'd say we'll play the 50 games of regular season, no fans, and then playoffs we'll plan to have fans, because by the time the playoffs comes around, it'll be like October, September, and the NFL is planning on having fans in the stands. So I think it'll all work out if that's the case. If that's the case, I am Mr. Baseball hater, but I can get behind the 50-game season, so I don't have to see 162-game season replay, freaking highlight SC top 10 all day.
Yeah, see, baseball, like, you get Mr. Baseball hater to even watch with a 50-game thing. You have to do this now. Baseball has to put this in place. So I guess this will be it for this pod, guys. We might do a Thursday pod if there's new news, but we were struggling, honestly, guys, to find ideas for you for this show, because there's just not a lot going on. So if there is news, if baseball does come to an official agreement, anything like that, we will have a Thursday pod for you. If not, we'll be back on Tuesday. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and a bunch of other platforms. For CJ Uri and Stephen Cashin, I am Jacob Brown, and we will see you next week.